Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me out there? Good morning, everybody. I'm Rod Braga with Braga Fresh, and it's my distinct honor to be up here with a great panel that we have today. And Matt wanted me to make sure I did a little getting some of this stuff, make sure we let everybody know that we want to thank our sponsor for this, which is Agrigene. And welcome, this is the Organic Grower Perspective on Challenges of Scaling. And we'd like to remind everybody to please silence your cell phones. And for certified crop advisors out there, CEUs, whatever that is, are available for this session. Make sure to sign in on the sheet at the back of the room and or scan the QR code after the session to receive credit. After the session, cross the parking lot, all of us, to the conference center for lunch and the trade show. So thank you very much. So what we're doing here today is a little bit talking about the challenges that people have in the organic and scaling, starting from in some cases just opening up organics when nothing was there, and how they got to where they are. And our panel here, we have to my left is Dick Pichotte with Lakeside Organic Garden. Thank you, Dick. We have Scott Mavs, the CEO of Homegrown Organic Farms. And we have Jessica Hunter, she's Vice President of Operations and owner of Ray Avocados. So thank you all so much for coming. And then I'll turn it over to Dick to tell us a little bit first about Lakeside and himself and all the farming history that they have.
Okay. Yep. Morning, everybody. So Lakeside Organic Gardens, actually I have to kind of go back to the beginning when I started farming when I was in high school in 17 on my own. My grandfather was a potato farmer in the Paro Valley, and then my dad decided to go into working for a spray company selling sprays, conventional sprays for a living, and I got into conventional farming when I was in high school and farmed 40 acres and started building my operation at that point. Spent about 20 years in conventional and really got really frustrated with just being a grower for bigger companies like Dole and Appio and Salyer American, and I was the grower, they were the shipper, and I kind of frustrated with that whole business model with watching them take what they needed off the top, the pack charge and all that, and then just basically turn the rest and say, well, here's what's left, and you're the grower, and you got to do all the work, but here you go. So I really got frustrated with that and said, there's got to be a better business model. So I looked over the fence at a lot of guys that were farming organically, very small operations, and I said, we could, if we were our own shipper, we could be a big shipper in that business. And so kind of took what I knew conventionally, not the spray in, but a lot of the practices, tractor work and stuff like that, and started farming in 96 with Lakeside, 25 years ago actually, with Lakeside, formed a little company called Lakeside Organic Gardens. We were farming 2,000 acres of conventional, and then we started this 50-acre little ranch with organic, and all the local growers kind of laughing at me. Says, how's your garden doing over there? So we actually put the name on it. That's kind of a joke at the time, Lakeside Organic Gardens, and it kind of stuck over the years, and that's why the name is. And so we've grown that little garden up to about, right now we do about 2,000 acres in the Paro Valley, and we do 1,000 acres in Imperial Valley, and we just started a operation down in Mexico. We do about a couple hundred acres down in Mexico. So we do about 50 different items. Lakeside, about probably 7 years into its existence, we were just farming in the Paro Valley, really saw in order to grow, we would have to be a year-round shipper. So that's when we got hooked up with a guy in the Imperial Valley where we started down there with a couple hundred acres of organic down there and grew that up over the years. And so that was really kind of a turning point for us, and it's kind of got us to where we're at. And like I say, we're centered in Watson, which only, like, if you don't know, it's about 20 miles kind of north of here. And like I say, we run back and forth to the Imperial Valley. We're just starting our production down there, start harvesting down there this week, and working full circle to, and like I say, we have about 350 employees, and that's kind of where we're at today.
And Dick's very humble. His family's been in the Paro Valley since the 1800s. And congratulations that this is actually your 25th year anniversary of Lakeside Organic Gardens, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And so that's quite a milestone. And I can speak a little bit because I'm one of the same commodities that Dick does, and 25 years ago, that was really, there wasn't a lot of people into these commodities at all. So that was, we started growing the baby spring mix and spinach, and that was easy, right? What he did was very hard at the time. And also, Lakeside Organic Gardens, I think, they are the largest family-owned and operated solely organic grower shipper in the whole country. And every major retailer around the country, you'll see their Lakeside label. So very, very impressive. Thanks, Dick. And then Scott, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
You bet. So I'm CEO of Homegrown Organic Farms. We're a sales and marketing company. We have a sister company called AgriCare, which is a farm management company. We represent about 120 organic growers, about 8,000 acres. The company was formed back in late 90s by John and Cindy France, and it was kind of developed out of necessity. He had organic acreage and no one to sell it. And the companies that he had worked with before to sell his crops, a lot of them had gone bankrupt and never paid him. So he said, well, I can't do much worse. So we ended up, he had formed the company, and I've been there about 14 years, came on as the sales and marketing manager, and then transitioned to CEO about 8 years ago. We have on the farming and then on the sales side, there's about 300 people, employees. Our main crops, we're out of the central San Joaquin Valley, out of Porterville there. Our main crops are citrus, blueberries, tree fruit, so mostly stone fruit, and then a few fall fruit items, and then grapes. I grew up in ag. Both my dad was a grower. Both of my grandfathers were growers, so I've been around ag my whole life. Tried to get out of it after college because all I knew about ag was sitting on a spray rig and spraying weeds with Roundup. And so that was pretty much my experience in ag. But left and then came back and realized that there was a whole lot more to ag than just sitting on a spray rig. So that's got into more of the management and sales and marketing side and the business side of it. And it's been it's a wonderful industry, right? There's a lot of good people in the industry, and we've really enjoyed just continuing to grow in the organic field in that. So,
thank you. And Jessica.
My name is Jessica Hunter. I'm third generation owner at Ray Avocado. We started doing organic in 2004. I joined the team in 2002 and started learning about how to farm the acreage. We had at that time about 200 acres of avocados that I decided to ask my dad, hey, can we try something different? Can we try to do the organic farming? He was nervous, so he gave me 10 acres and said, go ahead and play with that. And so that's what I did. I networked with a bunch of people. At that time in 2002, there was very little organic farmers, but we were getting the demand from Whole Foods and other buyers and asking us, do we have any availability of organic? So with the demand and the availability of organic fertilizers, I attempted to try to grow the avocados organically. I definitely had some struggles. There was some fertilizer that was sold saying it was great, and it didn't work on our trees. Long story short is I kept it simple. I figured out how to get the NPK exactly right. I figured out which 3 or 4 products worked for our farm, our soil, our temperature. And what I have found is my favorite part of my day is when I get to meet with farmers one-on-one and teach them what I went through and help them become profitable and successful as quickly as they can. I think that's going to be the key to success for farming organically, is always figuring out and not stumbling too long, trying to make your farm through the 3-year conversion. So one of the things that I try to do is look at the farm. I go to the growers and ask them, I look at their trees and make sure it's the right farm, and if it is the right farm, I encourage them. So again, our company does 30% of the organic avocados out of California. We package them down in San Diego County at 2 different warehouses. We ship probably 20% of it. The demand is growing on the East Coast, which is really exciting. It's not just a West Coast product. And again, day to day, I wear many hats on operations and running the farm, but also our facilities. I have a passion for just helping people, and it's really a privilege to be here.
Well, thank you very much. No, you're everywhere you go and drop off avocados, it's like you're bringing Christmas presents to people if you take it by, right? I take a box of broccoli to people, and it doesn't quite play.
I have to say, I learned that pretty quick when I went to my first trade show, and I go, I'm pretty fortunate that avocado is not another commodity. I'll leave it at that.
Well, thank you guys. You kind of touched on a little bit on the how and the where and the whys a little bit. But I'd say, Scott, so what, for you guys, like what's something that worked right away when you got into the organic deal?
I think, it's kind of like for us, it was just taking those opportunities when it was back in I'm talking to John about this a lot, but back in the early 2000s, it was a lot of just trial and error because there was so little information about organic farming and what to use. There was a lot of things that were said, oh, this will work great. This is your next, silver bullet to the farming piece, but the recognition that there's no shortcuts. In farming organically, a lot of it is, learning your ranch, learning your soil, learning your trees, and every ranch is different in that regard. And so I think the owners recognized that and did a really good job of not trying to shortcut it. You had to put in the oversight. You had to put in the boots on the ground in the ranch. Really understanding your trees as permanent crops. It wasn't, we're not going to tear it out and start over. Right. This is, we've got to figure out how to work with these plants and do that from day one. And so it was, I think, it was a lot of just hamming and egging it too. I mean, you're trying to figure out, okay, this didn't work last year. Let's see what this year brings. And we ended up from a sales company perspective, it was really providing a place for growers to come that didn't have a marketer to represent them. They didn't know how to get to market. And back in those real early days, and it was neat to provide that type of a place for growers that they could come somewhere and trust that they were going to, we had a motto of no surprises.
So what worked to get to market? How did you figure that out?
In the beginning, being that there was only a few real customers that were most interested, and to tell you the truth, the wholesalers played a huge role in really the smaller retailers, the smaller co-ops, that was the foundation of the building of the organic marketplace. And and then as it grew, we recognized there was, the larger retailers were looking to get into it, and there had to be we have to support, to grow that marketplace, you had to support those companies that were looking to get into it. And a lot of it's turned into, there's a lot of private label, today in the retail markets, and it was, you would like to have your own label out there on the shelf every day, but the recognition too that we're there to service a customer and provide a good quality product day in and day out. So,
Jessica, so what you had that 10 acres you started with, and that was obviously proved out that was working. So then once you started to scale a little more, what started clicking to make that work that got you?
I think building with actually the hands-on, the foreman on the ranches. So showing them that, okay, this worked. It wasn't just, it did take a lot more of manual labor of the fertilizer. Maybe the pests didn't get knocked down as much. The weeds were a bit more, right? And just learning, okay, the key is our production didn't go down. So if the production didn't go down, then obviously we're receiving more profits per acre, and that's the ultimate goal, to offset this increased cost. And so everyone saw it as a win of success. So eventually, about 80% of our farms were able to be converted because the soil and the trees' health was strong enough. And so we did the same in 2004 when we started. There was a small demand. Boutique people supported us. Then bigger retailers started saying, we want it. And well, that was my job to go make sure we come up with the product. So again, it was such a blessing. I got a chance to come up. I still to this day give my fertilizer what works for me, and I say, you can adjust it, but I go to the farm and will encourage and teach them and walk with them and show them how not intimidating. A lot of commercialized managers will say, that's too much work. It's still almost this 20 years later, and it's really not. And the grower success is my success. So it's a great market. The consumer pays the premium for it. We're able to maintain production, and so that's kind of the scaling positive experience I've had in the 20 years, just working intimately with the farmer and making sure if the market is soft on price, working and having that trust of I helped you grow and no fertilizer, I'm also going to tell you, let's wait a month, the market's going to get better, and creating that supply and demand for price, because ultimately I want the most money for each grower, because that's going to be my company's success and a way that I can supply the market.
Thank you. And so, yep.
I think our entrance into the organic field is what I call a field of dreams attitude. Is I always thought that if we grow it, they'll come, and that didn't happen. It was kind of like weird. It was like, okay, we're growing this organic stuff. Where's all these buyers that want it? And it's like Scott was saying, back then there weren't many of them. We were like, where are they? So we had to kind of almost create our own market. So we were. We said we'll open the doors and nobody showed up. So we put guys in trucks and started going to local stores and saying, you do organic? I said, organic? No. So we worked on them. My brother was working with me at the time, and we'd send people out in little vans and go to stores and start delivering 2 or 3 boxes. And and now we do a local route that we've done for years. We do about 45, 50 different stops up through the Bay Area that it's part of our business where we do direct delivery. A lot of those stores have been with us for the whole 25 years. We were their first supplier, and we built the business with them. And guys come knocking on the door, with it. I said, no, we've been Lakeside since we started. So, so I think the thing is, you build that, you build that commitment from customers. You get to know them, and so when we started the first year, we were doing that, and they said, well, the next year, well, what's next? And people like Veritable Vegetable and Earl's Organics and different companies from up in the Bay Area, they started coming, hearing about us, and started coming and showing up, and pretty soon, Whole Foods was knocking on the door, and so it just kind of it was just building that, that trust with people and delivering on that, but. It was shocked me that we couldn't really just open the doors and all the organic guys are all lined up. Okay, who are we going to sell to today? So,
well, it's still kind of partially that way in the sense that you're building shelf space. I mean, it's like even with the growth of the organic marketplace, you have to go ahead of it, and you have to build that shelf space out, or it's not going to be there for you when you have that increase in crop next year.
I remember going into Deluxe Foods over in Santa Cruz and say, "You guys are organic? Organic? Yeah, it's way down in the end. It's like three little things down at the end. Don't go there. It's not worth looking at." So now they're about 50% organic now today. So it's taken a while to build that up, and like I said,
yeah, that's interesting, because I was going to ask you if there was a particular, because I know you do 50 crops, everything in the wet veg category, and lots of other stuff, and if there was a particular crop that really sprung board you, but it sounds like it was really maybe doing the delivery part, huh? Was really integral.
And I think the other thing too is we started up with a lot of different crops because we wanted to be one supplier, and so we kind of stuck with that, and that's been kind of our claim to fame over the years is we do so many items. But it was kind of funny because when the chain store started getting into organic, they started putting that 5, 6, 7 items on the end of the deal and said, oh, the organic is down there. Well, it didn't take long to figure out that, organic buyer's not going to go buy 4 or 5 items at Safeway and then go down the street to Whole Foods to buy the rest of what they eat. They're either going to eat organic or they're not. And so that's where we fit in really good. Is they said, well, where do we get all this stuff? Well, you call Lakeside, and so they, so they would call and they could fill a truck with 50 different items, and then they're the whole wet rack's full in one whack, So So I think that's what we've kind of really focused our business on, is being that supplier for all those items, and being a steady supplier too, because that's the other thing too. The early days of organic, and you probably experienced too, it's like we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out, we're in and out. And in conventional, you can do that because there's so many players out there. You can run out. Oh, you go down the street. Those guys got it. Those guys got it. You know, organic. Sometimes you run out. There may not be anybody who has any organic for a month.
Yeah.
So we've kind of focused on having year-round programs on what we do, and most of it works that way.
Well, thank you. So Jessica, so you kind of talked about some of the highs of you know, the. It's interesting to me also is that it sounds like all of your guys' success started off on the growing side, right? You had to get that right. There was no magic marker that came and just said what you had to do, right? But so what were kind of some of the, if you remember some of the pitfalls, some of the lows you might have had? Was it on the production side, or was it more on the marketing, or was it?
Well, I mean, a struggle is obviously going into organic. You can consider it a low is we produced and we didn't have a market yet. The blessing was you could sell it conventionally, and so the grower still had a home for the product. So you could call that a negative, is that, you know, sometimes there's oversupply and not enough demand for that premium. So, you know, as a grower, that was a struggle growing the market. Now it's more, we are filling it with other countries of origin, but organic buyers are loyal. So still a struggle is we don't grow 12 months of the year. So, you know, still trying to find partners that are legitimately farming organic and, you know, support our brand of, you know, quality product from other countries. So.
And this is a Matt Seeley question. I think it's his Oprah question. It's like, you know, what do you wish that you knew then that you know now? Right?
My fertilizer regime. I know. There is really good products out there, but like you said, it's. I think we have a unique climate. We can't just learn from somebody in Peru or somebody even growing, you know, up in San Luis Obispo County has different soil and climate than somebody in San Diego County. And so I think the key is now with so many of us, I wish we could have jumped into it a little bit faster, but it's been a good ride.
Yeah.
I think for us too is recognizing that if your land, if your acreage does not lend itself to farming organically, don't do it.
Yeah.
We had numerous, and we're permanent crops, so you know, you're not making a 1-year investment, you're making a, you know, a 15, 20-year investment, and we had failures due to that, yeah. So recognizing that and just being very diligent not to push the envelope if it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, Dick, so, you know, knowing the crops that you grow and knowing the region you grow in, and for those of you out of the area, I think Dick probably is farming in some of the most expensive farmland in the world, right? It's beautiful over there. It's right on the ocean, and, you know, that Powell, Watsonville area is gorgeous. But, boy, that was, you know, what kind of struggle? I mean, so you had great soil that's going to help you with the organic, but at the same time, I got into the organics growing this baby spring mix and spinach on, you could grow it on blow sand, a 25-day crop, right? And so in that world, on the baby stuff, it kind of started on what the ground that really hadn't been farmed that much, right? It wasn't the best farmland. But you were growing these commodities on this expensive dirt. So what was that like?
Well, that was a learning process in itself, because me and Stan Pierre is a friend of mine that's Mission Ranches, and, you know, now he's with Taylor Farms, but he was original, one of the guys in Earthbound. And we would pass out in the roads, we would pass out in the field roads and talk to each other and pickup to pickup. And he pulled up to me one day and he says, you know, he says, I'm beginning to think we don't ever learn from our mistakes, do we? And I go, what do you mean, Stan? He says, you know, we get into this organic deal, and he says, we want to grow this organic deal. And he said, you know what? We go out and pick up all the crappy ground that nobody else farms and think we can avoid that 3-year transition and go farm that ground. And we couldn't farm it conventionally and make it, but he says, we're going to go farm it organically. I said, you know, Stanley, one thing is consistent. Every farmer does that. So I said, they go out and get the crappy ground and try to make it work. And eventually you figure out, you know what, you just better bite the bullet. You know, the transition is hell. Some of our land's going $3,000 to $4,000 an acre for rent. But we have to bite the bullet, and we have to transition a certain amount each year, and we call it 3 years of hell to make it happen, because there's really no crop you can grow in there and make a profit. So we spend that 3 years building that up, but that's kind of built into our whole business plan, you know. But the expensive ground doesn't just come our way. We have to negotiate long-term leases, or we bought some of the land, And we have to work with people say, what do you look for in land? I said, first thing I look for is a good landlord. That's the first thing. Because you got to make sure he's committed to you, because after you make the transition and you farmed it for 8 or 9 years, you know, those people that I deal with, they don't go out, put out the bid, they just work with you and you move forward together, you know. So we've had some of those leases over there since Lakeside started, you know, that we've been on there. And I said, I can still work on the grounds. First thing is the landlord, second thing is to get good quality land and then, you know, make it better. And that's the thing of the transition time is really hell. For us, it's been hell to get through. And we've had to, a couple of times we've actually transitioned too much land and it's driven the business to the brink of failure, you know, and so we've kind of tapered that back to see what we can afford to transition.
Yeah.
Well, it's similar to we would look at a piece of acreage that was struggling conventionally and say, well, let's transition that. Well, that's not very smart.
Damn farmers.
And, it's opportunities, right? And you're just, but you don't end up with a good piece of acreage at the end of it. Mm-hmm. Never does.
Yeah. So Scott, so now you got the growing down, but so now the success that you have today, obviously we were talking earlier a little bit before we started that it's not just about farming, right? These businesses that you folks are running they're complete entire businesses,
Yeah.
right? So what is how taking that entire business, you know, what parts that you guys do well that made that a success of where you are today?
Yeah. I think, I mean, every one of you, if you're a grower, you run a business, right? So you have people that work for you and you have a management structure of some sort, whatever that looks like. And the key of, first of all, you need to have a company that has heart and soul. I mean, you need to have a company that has purpose to what it's doing and that all your employees understand that purpose. You need to have, you know, people that are bought into what you're doing and that feel a part of it. I think we've made a lot of effort to drive values and mission throughout the company. And a lot of times you can, you know, it's like, well, yeah, I've been in companies like that before and it's just hypocritical. And it's got to be real. It has to be led from the top. And it has to be worked out in all the daily activities that take place. We've used a lot of we've used different structures. We use a EOS traction is the one that we're on, you know, use right now to kind of help us manage our business properly. And you know, when you start to scale, it's a lot of communication and how you best getting people that care about what they do and are bought into the company and what that is. We just transitioned to an ESOP this last spring, so that's an employee-owned company. And that was a pretty neat opportunity that the prior ownership gave us. It was a good transition, and kind of they saw that, you know, really needed to happen in order for these companies to continue to expand and grow. But that's kind of a foundation of what was represented already within the companies. Is we want the employees, we want the team members to feel a part of ownership, and we want them to act like owners. So it was just a good move there. But it's building on people. When you start to scale, that's the most critical thing. Is it has to be the people, because you can't do it all on your own anymore. You have to have good people in position that know what they're doing, and that can help you multiply, bring about what your vision is.
Yeah, and Jessica, so you're family operation, multiple generations, right?
Yeah.
You're generation 3.
Yeah.
And so what advice would you give to somebody that was on the, you started off with the 10 acres that your dad played with that. So somebody that's maybe moved up from that now, they're a few hundred acres, they're doing something, and maybe they want to actually, maybe they're just growing for other people, but they want to get to their own label and maybe do, like, so what kind of advice you think, what would be some inroads into something like that?
For their own label, that'd be a challenging question. I was thinking, I think the key is he was speaking on the growth of any company, he said it right on, is connection with your staff, And then if it's your own label, I think you could tell your own story. We have a grower that started their own label. It's not organic, but it's Ray Avocado that we have private label. And if you can tell your story, people really care. There's a market out there that there's people that really care about your story. You've heard that for years. Oh, I'm local. But it's true. People want to support you if you really are doing what you say, if you're taking care of the environment, if you are growing a really unique piece of fruit or vegetable. They want to support the person that's down the street, knowing that even if they have to pay more, if there's a story behind it, they will support it. So just, fight for that. Keep fighting and telling your story. There's all different scaled size companies. There still are the small companies that will support the smaller scale. There's, as we've grown, we've had to really stay true to who we are. If it's not good for the grower, it's not good for us. And you can't change from your values even as you're scaling up to the big warehouses. But we really try to still stay similar practice mentality as if we were dealing with the small boutique retailer, and humbly, we're just a 10-acre farmer really supporting. So I think if you care about your story, and your story includes your people, and when you have knowing that I wake up in the morning knowing I'm working to support over 100 employees now, not just myself. Like, how can I make their day better? How can this farm and this operation really reflect what something for them to wake up and be joyful that we're like creating this amazing avocado that's full of nutrition and just the best product around. How can you make their day exciting? And so I think even if you're a small business, you still can have that same passion of what am I doing, and share that joy with your employees and your team, and they all buy in and they work harder, and it's a win to scale up.
And Dick, you're running farming company, sales company, cooling company, fertilizer company. Really, you're doing multiple companies is what you're doing. So, what was the success? Did you have to integrate those? Did they just run independently? How do you think that came about?
It's kind of interesting. We had about 5 years ago, we had a management company come in to tell us, because I only graduated from high school. Obviously, I was farming in high school, so I didn't, so I just learned everything on the go. I had to learn business on the go, and people said, well, how'd you learn? I said, well, just by mistakes, And, but the thing is you had this management company come in to tell us how we could manage better. And they came in and they said, well, after 3 days, we'll come in there and we're going to give you a report. And then, we pay these guys big money to come in and improve our management. So after 3 years, they came back and they said, we never did this before, we're giving your money back. And I said, well, what do you mean you're giving the money back? He said, because this company doesn't follow any kind of management we've ever seen, nothing we've ever seen. We don't know how it works, but it works so well that we're going to walk away from it. I called my boss in Indianapolis this morning. I said, hey, boss, here's the situation. He said, just give him his money and get the hell out of there. So, and the thing that's unique is, and I've got some people in the room here today, they could tell you that, that I'm involved in everything from the start to the finish. And so, but I grew up with the company. So it's not like you couldn't bring a person in to run Lakeside today, because we've got all these interconnections. I know the tractor drivers, I know the irrigators, and me and Juan's right here in front that I was thinking I got 3 kinds of mud. I got Mexicali mud from 6 o'clock yesterday morning. I got 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon Imperial Valley mud, and I got mud from this morning over in Watsonville. So they're all in the boots there, because we're out walking fields and we're we're talking to the sales and we're telling them, hey, we're going to be cutting Napa and Watsonville for another week. That block over there on the Cassidy Ranch. When we finish that, we're going to move to Imperial Valley, making those connections. And then from the boot, we call it boots on the ground, because you're basically connecting that to the sales. This morning, me and Juan on the way over here, we're calling the sales and we're telling them what's going to be harvested, and we've already been in communication with that. So, we're talking to the people in the field that, and then it goes through to the guys that haul it, and everything's really a chain to make it all work. And it's not one more. The salesman's no more important than the guy picking the radishes out there, because if Edgar picks the radishes doesn't do a good job, the guy doesn't show up to haul it to the cooler. He's late. the cooler doesn't receive it and put it into the cooling process, if the shipping guy doesn't get the right on the order, we all fail together. So the salesman's sitting there, hey, I got nothing to sell. What are you making the big money for? You're not. So it's important that everybody through and I'm going to reiterate like what they've said as far as it's all about the people, and I'm able to do what I do because of the people, and we make sure that they're. I love the whole concept of ESOP. I think that's ownership, employee ownership is a fantastic thing. We have our version that 100% of our employees have gotten bonuses for going on 6-7 years now. That I personally look at through all the crews, and I don't know every single person out there, but I know the crews, and we make sure that everybody gets bonuses. If we make money, they make money because they're really the ones that make it happen. And I think that's helped us with our retention and helped us. I mean, some of the people have been with me longer than Lakeside's been there, and I think that I just want to make sure that they know they're appreciated. And I, have a saying that, as a business owner, it's not just about profit, it's about creating wealth. And that's in your employees, that can be in your suppliers, that if your suppliers aren't doing good, then you need to go get new suppliers. So, there's enough for everybody can do good, and everybody can win, so I think that philosophy, if you breed that through the whole company, they'll take care of you, you take care of them, they'll take care of you, and it works both ways. So I've been real proud to lead the. I said a lot of times I'm the guy steering the ship, but they're the guys with the oars in the water to make it all happen. And if you don't appreciate them, there ain't nothing to steer.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You're certainly, you remind me of, we see what you do in the community over here because we're close, and we see what you're doing. And I think, all of us up here probably realize that I think our team members, when we're involved in our communities, right? They live in those communities, they see, they become a part of the whole thing, and becomes like a strive and a mission for everybody, right? And I think we all agree on that. So the other thing I was going to talk about was, part of the stuff we were talking about earlier was you can't get together without a group of farmers and not talk about challenges, and we've certainly got those, whether it's on the an organic perhaps more than others, whether it be regulation, the difficulties with labor. Of course, now everybody talks about supply chain, just costs that are increasing all across the board, and so that's, we just kind of always, those are always there, right? So I think one of the things is that, and maybe Scott, I'll start with you, is picking one, but have you found a solution to any of these things yet, right? So whether it's regulatory,
raise prices,
yeah, right. Well, have you been able to do that? So,
I know.
Congratulations. But so is there a particular challenge that you guys have faced recently that maybe all were facing that you can, and if you don't have a solution to it, like I don't got any, that's why I'm asking you, right? But
yeah, I mean, I just sat down with the sales team yesterday, and we went over our pack charge increases for citrus, and it's unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it. Packaging has gone up, in some cases 35, 40%. Labor costs are obviously up, and just the overall. What you have to do at the packing shed, whether it's the wax, whether it's you name it, it's all increased. Whether or not you think it's inflation or not, or just supply chain, it's increases, and that are going to affect the bottom line. And I sat down with them because I wanted them to completely understand the situation that the grower is in, and that we have to do a good job of controlling the message of why prices do need to come up, and that we can't lag like ag tends to do a lot of the time. We can't lag behind this because growers are going to go out of business. So I think that, from what I know that I can somewhat have control over in that regards, as far as helping our team properly communicate to real numbers and information to the buyers, that they understand that, hey, this has to change. We can't continue down this path of where it's been over these last several years, and I think in a sense that the retail community somewhat understands that. I mean, they see it in their own homes and their own. We just have to do a really good job of telling it, and then we have to hold We can't just do the normal, race to the bottom because of competition. It's not going to work because the equation has changed literally in the last, 6 months. I feel like it's changed, and so that we have to help change that.
Yeah, we're all doing business on the West Coast, and obviously that's more struggles than people in other places, but I think it's going across the country now.
Yeah.
And so Jessica, we talked a little bit before, you said, labor, down in San Diego where your home base is, beautiful area. Is that was probably my biggest problem until the last year and a half or so, when it just seems like that's not there. But so what are you seeing?
Well, we're at a grower show, so obviously for me, it would be water. In San Diego County, I used to, when I started in 2000, it cost me about maybe $4,000 a year in water to water an acre of avocados, and now it's about $10,000 to water an acre of avocados. So long story short is that means I have to make more pounds and get more money per pound as a grower. So that is my passion. I do exactly what he does. I sit with the sales team and I am telling them operation costs in the field, the fertilizer cost, the true cost of farming, the avocados that they're selling. I think that is the strongest connection point you can have. And then the third tier, one beyond that, we'll go and actually invite the retailers to come to the farm. We don't get that as often as we used to, but we try to do it virtually. That emotional connection from knowing what the farmers are truly going through really makes a difference, and especially on the buyer. Even as a produce manager, I'll go meet with the produce managers because they're our biggest advocates. They're getting questions there at the produce level saying, should I buy organic? Is it worth it or not? And when they can tell the story of how that came and how, the type of climate we're growing in, some of our woes, and actually advocate for us that it was worth it, you get that sale. So it's connecting all the way from what all these woes are, but they're what they are. And so we just have to be growing as many pounds per acre as we can, just like you guys are probably scaling up. You're just trying, and so you're being smart, you're replacing trees, you're trying to be innovative with new varieties. So on the growing end, you're changing your trees out. Even though they're permanent crops, takes you 3 years to get an avocado off the tree. You're thinking of, do I grow for a gem avocado? Do I go reed? Is there new things out there? So you have to be innovative on, are there new varieties out there that can get me more yield to be able to pay that fixed cost that just does keep going up. So,
Dick, so in our vegetable business, I'm hearing from them that prices got to go up.
Game if you are.
Yeah, well, and because I think, you've done such a fantastic job. When you started off on the organics, your probably yield was a lot less than it was on the conventional, I would imagine. But now that's caught up, and I think, is it safe to say kind of in our area, we've gotten just about the most yield we're going to get out of this stuff. We've gone to wide beds, we've done all this stuff. So is there, what is the solution to is there anything there? You're always looking to save money and get better, but
I think there's just, you have to look at efficiencies, and I've been accused of micromanaging, but I think as an operator, as a business operator today, you have to micromanage because nobody's going to be watching the little things. But like I say, there's so many little things in your operation that you can cut pennies and that there. And we look at, like solar, we got solar in our cooler. That's, we figured a 5-year payback in 3 years it was done. Now we're reaping the harvest of that continually. We're putting solar on pumps. We're putting variable frequency drives on pumps. We used to turn on a 100 horsepower pump and you only had to run one line of sprinklers. You just choke it back and pump 100 horsepower. Now we only pump 15 horsepower, to get that job done. So those are investments that we've made over the years that are paying back now, and fuel costs. If you if you run tractors and just run full bore like we used to, then yeah, you're eating up fuel. Fuel costs up 37% in 1 year. In 1 year, that's a big cost for us. And the thing is we have tractors now that that are steered by GPS, that run on autopilot, so they can basically determine how much fuel they need to burn, and that alone, we're not loading these big 300-400 horsepower tractors. A lot of times we don't need that. We need it when we're ripping, but we don't need it when we're disking, and we don't need it when we're land planing. So those tractors are only consuming the fuel. Well, if you look over the whole year, how much fuel that saves at 37%. Our goal is to offset that. Well, I don't think we can, but so I think that there's a lot of things along there that we can do. Our cartons, we just implemented last year a deal to do recyclable plastic cartons, and that's probably a huge move for us. I figure that's going to save, over 10 million pounds a year that's going to go in the landfill. I figure right now we're at 10 million pounds a year less going into landfills. So that's a cost, and whether that the end consumer, the buyer, if they can turn that around and get that back to the recycler, it really costs them nothing, and it goes back through the whole thing. But it didn't cost them anything to dump it. On the other hand, so there's a savings for them too. So hopefully a savings for them will allow them to pay a little higher price to us. And
so these plastic cartons now, are they a little more expensive than the traditional corrugate?
We've got them down pretty close. They used to be twice the price, and we're pretty darn competitive now. So we've been working with the direct manufacturer that actually makes the cartons, and they've been working with us to find the right combination. To heavier cartons need to be thicker. The lighter cartons can be thinner, and we've been working with combinations with them to keep the cost down on those too. And now, paper cost is going up, wax cost is going up with veg. That's your only other option really that I know of, and so it's just one of the tools in the shed.
So now you're out there. You're not just selling vegetables. Now you're talking before. You're having to sell the retailer on recycling and their cost savings. You're going to them and really providing solutions, right? Are you two also into the plastic carton stuff? I'm just kind of curious if you're doing any of that.
For us, we are looking into more demand. We get a lot of requests of consumers concerned about the netting and the bagging being recyclable. So luckily, kind of in general, it's become a hot topic, and competition has created it more affordable so that all the materials eventually can get 100% recycled. We're at halfway recyclable, the number 3. So they'd have to be specific, but it's coming a long way. Just like organic just started 20 years ago, I think recycling in the next 5 years will probably dramatically become mainstream, which will help all of us. I think that will add to the consumer demand, to be honest, feeling more comfortable buying a variety of different packaging.
We continue to see the use of RPCs, increase. I mean, I think that's with what we just saw over this last 6 months. I think that's only going to continue to grow. The same thing on the recycling. We're very similar in that way. I'm all game for getting rid of all packaging altogether. That would be a beautiful thing. But I don't think we're gonna realize that. But it's difficult in the packaging world. Has been very difficult from an organic perspective because realistically, we are forced into a lot of packaging options because they want the ring through. The retailer wants the ring through, and so we package an incredible amount of product. And part of that scaling has been how do we get to the scale where we can actually automate some of this stuff, because that automation is critical to be able to do that for a reasonable cost.
So, Jessica, so what are the opportunities like? So we're looking out the next 5-10 years in organic, and we see the challenges. But what do you see out there as maybe the opportunity for organic, really in the future?
I think the hope for the organic grower is ultimately increased bottom line for you guys all. So I think the key is that the consumption for us personally, it continues to grow across the nation. I still think that there's a lot of demand that's not aware of the benefits of organic, both for the environment and for health. And I think if we continue to push that, and to be honest, the availability is still short of supplying the whole national market. We focus mostly on the West Coast, and the East Coast is developing, but the point is there's still hope. There's still a lot of availability of market share to be had. So I want to give that hope. And for us, again, new varieties, I think that the organic consumer has a more sophisticated way of buying and want to do a little bit more research. So I think different varieties for whatever you grow. For me, it's going to be probably into, I've had great success with a Ray Avocado. It's a summer variety. There's going to be a gem avocado coming out into the marketplace. And I think having multiple options is newer to the organic market, and they're the first to receive it well compared to the conventional on the shelf. So that is also something exciting.
So that's something that, because you still have growers that are doing conventional as well.
Yeah.
And so that sounds like something that actually where the organic has an opportunity over the conventional.
Absolutely.
Then, right?
I mean, they all are seeing these increased costs. And so again, if it makes sense for the farm, not all farms are suitable to go organic. Again, there's a lot of root disease and different things that happen. But if the farm is healthy and strong, I definitely am always encouraging, and right now, there's, I think, around only 10% of all of California avocados are organic. That's it still, so there's definitely room to grow on transitioning more growers as they realize it's not as difficult as they thought to farm it, and we continue to fight for a premium by opening up more markets. Those are the two things.
That's fantastic. Scott, what do you see on the now you guys are all organic? Is that okay?
Yeah.
But you've obviously got neighbors and your competition is conventional and all
Yes.
that. What do you see as like something that, like, instead of just a hardship on the organic, like it costs more, maybe we get a little better price, but sometimes we don't. So what do you see as a real win against being in the organic space that you're in?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, and most of it's about what we're messaging. We have to control the narrative on sustainability, and sustainability is it's a talked about all the time, right? But there's more stuff that's continuing to develop in regards to that. You have new things that are coming out, regenerative agriculture. You have different ways of, you have EFI, you have fair trade, you have all these different pieces, right? And organic has to control this narrative, or it's very dangerous if we don't control it. And organic is the foundation to that. The organic provides the foundation to all those other pieces. And so controlling that narrative, we have the opportunity to do that, which we're in a very good position to make that happen really well. The other thing is we also have the story. And we are not just providing a product. We're providing a product that has a lot more value to it because of the story behind it. And that story obviously has to do with how we farmed it, how it was brought to market, but it has to do with all of you, the growers, and who you are and what you've done, and all of your stories and how you've gotten into it. And I just think we have the opportunity to tell that really, really well. I think e-commerce is going to play a huge part in that because, like it or not, it's very hard to tell that story today. It's very hard to have a story, your stories told at the retail shelf. Happens some of the time, but not very often, honestly. But e-commerce, we can do it extremely well through e-commerce. So I'm excited about that. I think that our just looking at our own business, e-commerce sales has grown exponentially over the last several years, and it will be interesting to watch to see where that ends up.
Yeah, Dick, what do you see as possibly in the next 5 or 10 years? What are you looking out at opportunity wise?
Well, I think one thing I think we're going through a generational change that I see. I see my nieces and nephews now that are no longer even they're not even buying Gerber off the shelf for their babies. They're not even buying Gerber organic. They're buying fresh vegetables at the store. They're taking them home, making their own baby food. They're getting that next generation off to the right start. And I think, there's And there's a lot more of them are doing the whole juicing deal. That's been a huge boost to our business. Online buying, the meals at home, the home delivery deals, and I mean, like the pandemic changed everybody's life in a lot of ways, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to change. At that point, a lot of the changing habits changed at that point with the pandemic here, and they're not going to go back to what they were. So I think we're dealing with a whole new, I wouldn't say a whole customer base, but a whole new type of buying, and so we have to adjust to that. And if we adjust to that, and I go back to the same thing with the story, I mean, our story, we talk a lot about the healthy food that we supply organic, but we don't push enough of the positive effect we have on our methods of farming on the ground. That we, I mean, like I've gone over the millions and millions of pounds of less chemicals we put in the Paro Valley that over a period of time has got to help the whole groundwater situation and everything else. And I mean, that's a byproduct of what we do, and hopefully, you know, that's everybody's goal in organic is to look beyond. If you're buying organic, you're supporting a system that's going to leave things better. It's like the old Boy Scouts deal, leave it better than it was. And so I think people nowadays are looking a lot at, they go online, they look at your story, they look at who you are. I want to know who you are and what you're doing, you know. And we get, I'm sure you get on comments from a lot of people that send us, hey, I saw this, or I don't want to buy you because you have plastic boxes. Well, then we go back and we explain to them, well, what you didn't see before was the wax boxes. And so we have to explain our story and say, but now we buy on plastic, now we're recycled, that comes back and we reuse it. Oh, you didn't understand that. So I think a lot of times you have to go to that consumer and explain to them why we do. And even like our bib ties, I'm sure you get it too. The little bib ties say, why didn't you use just paper on those? Well, they won't work with paper. These are wet veg, you know. And so we worked with the supplier to have a recycle program that they can actually, people send it back to us in envelopes. Hey, can you reuse these? Food safety, you can't use those. You know, you've been out there tying up your dog's tail with it or something. You know, so the thing is we, you know, so we have no way of knowing that. So we can't, but they can take it back to our supplier has got a recycle program at their deal. And so we put that on the tag that they can send it back to them if they want to and recycle. What they don't realize is there's 4 ounces of bib ties in the box and 3 pounds of box, you know, and so, but they don't see the box, and so they see the bib tie. So a lot of it's educating them of you know, of what we're doing, and like I say, I mean, organic farming, you know, reducing our carbon footprint, carbon sequestration from a lot of the cover crops we plant and things like that, or things that in the conventional deal, I mean, we plant 10 times what we did in the conventional world. From what we did conventional, we did 10 times as much cover crops on our ground. You know, we do probably 600 to 700 acres of cover crops every year. That helps us build the soil, and it's, you know, it's good for everything. It's good for the water use, more organic matter in the ground, holds water better, it reduces water. We're using recycled water. A lot of our farms in Watson, we're using recycled water through the water agency that we've worked on over the last 25 years. You know, but those stories aren't, you know, those don't get to the end consumer. And I think that they have to. I think we have to get those to the consumer as far as, you know, everything we're doing and how we treat our help. I mean, they have this vision that, oh, the farm workers, you know, they treat their guys like dirt. What are you talking about? Have you been out here? Have you? And like I say, I welcome any of the customers come out and do a field tour and see how we do. And like I tell people, if you go out to my ranch, I says, you know, if you speak Spanish, go talk to the guys. I says, oh, well, what are you afraid? I'm not afraid of anything. You ask them anything. You ask them anything about Lakeside, anything about the way we treat them. I have no fear. You go talk to them. So, well, I've been to other guys' ranches and they're scared of it. I said, that was years ago. I says, anybody that's going to survive today, you got to treat your help better than that. So, you know, so I'm proud.
Really, you know, you're talking about sustainability from everything from the ground to the people to the communities, and so, like Jessica, I mean, is sustainability almost trumping the word organic out there now, or is it equal on par, or what are you seeing in the avocado business anyway?
I don't know. It seems that organic is still the trump card. I think that actually people don't know what sustainability and some of the other good, even carbon footprint. I don't know if we're actually educating the younger generation what that means, to be honest. I
think we need to hire Dick to be our
very much
market.
support that it's figuring out how we can advocate for that bigger picture. But I think organic, if we keep it simple, we'll probably have the ultimate win. If we just keep it simple and show that I think they just want authentic organic and making sure that people aren't cheating, that they're really farming it organic and can trust it. And I think that's where we're going to get the win. But all this adds to it. And that's part of the story of organic is what these guys have shared.
I'm curious if any of you have had, and you had to, Dick had to, if you do such a great job on what you're producing that you'll get some of the folks that were buying organic early on and they'll try to call you up and say this is not organic, right? Because it looks too good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
My marketing manager hates those phone calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the other deal is, how about local, right? Like, is that, so Dick, you're I think, in the whole Bay Area, you can be putting yourself off as local, right? And you are, you're actually delivering it there. Is that something that you're seeing more of a push on the local, and they want to see the farmer in the retail and all that?
I think some of the studies are showing that people are getting confused about the whole local thing, and they think if it's local, it is organic. And I think there again, we have to tell them what the difference is. Like Scott said, we really need to explain to them what the difference is between the two, because there's a lot of confusion about that. People across the country, I buy it local, and it says, well, then I usually buy organic, but when it's local, I know it's organic. You don't know it's organic because it's not. And so I haven't had, in the Bay Area, we've had that advantage of being the local guy, and people know us, and people, know for the whole area. But outside of that, I think it hurts us on a lot of fronts. And I think that the other thing too, I think a lot of times when I was in the conventional world, when we ship across the country, the thing is the summertime, it would just die. The business would die. But organic, I think we've been able to sustain that because you can't get lettuce in Kansas in the summertime, So I think we've done a really good job of being able to cover. We have in our sales deal, we have a pin where all our customers are, and we've filled the whole United States now where our customers are. It used to be when we started, it was there,
Yep.
and nowhere in between,
Right.
But as years have gone on, we filled every state, including Alaska and Hawaii, with organic product. And I think that
They're giving me the 2-minute warning here, but just, and I don't know, it's maybe not a 2-minute question, but as the organics has just, like you said, now you filled in the whole country, right? So it's different than when you were selling to just a few retailers and you had that organic buyer. Now you're in all the major retailers and club stores and everywhere, and you have non-organic buyers. Maybe is it so? I guess Scott, starting with you, do you see any issue there with sometimes when people are not used to buying the organic, and or is your quality fantastic and it's okay?
Well, no, there's an issue when you start dealing with buyers that are either brand new to the organic space or brand new to buying produce, period, which is fairly common now. And there's an education that what was said earlier about getting them to the farm in some form, whether that's even over a video or something, to get them there to understand that's it's critical, because we are in the educating business. We need to educate these people in understanding what the challenges are to facing organic farming and to growing organically, and to help them understand that, yeah, it's not a perfect. You're going to see some differences. Conventional farming and organic farming are different, and if you hold that same standard exactly all the time, it's not going to work for you. You're going to have problems as a buyer. And so helping them understand that, but obviously they have their people they're answering to, so that they can go and communicate those things to their managers and have a good conversation about it. But it's definitely a challenge with the turnover that's taking place at the buyer level, we've just seen it in the last couple of years too, obviously.
Well, thank you. I think they're telling us we had to wrap up, but I want to thank our panel here of 3 fantastic growers and shippers, and thank you very much. Thank you all, and I think make your way across for lunch later on, and we'll chat with everybody outside. Yep.